Okay, what we're going to do now is go to one more of the swing flaws that we see quite frequently, and this one is called reverse spine angle. And this is one swing flaw that can not only hurt your golf swing, but it can also hurt your body. It's probably the one that's the most responsible for bad back or back injuries in the game of golf. And basically what a reverse spine angle is, it's excessive backward bending of the body this way in the backswing. And I've seen this way too many times in my teaching, and it does put an extreme amount of stress in your lower back if you have reverse spine angle. So you need to correct this swing flaw. Not only it's a real power robber for your golf swing, but it's also can be very detrimental to your body to reverse spine angle. There's a couple of things here that I would start with that are important for you to see. And if I took this rod here and I got into my setup position, and as I rotate up to the top of the backswing, you can see just about how far off the ground this rod is here. And I'm pretty much into a pretty full turn, pretty full backswing. If I have a reverse spine angle, what will happen is this rod will go way up in the air, and again, I can feel that in my lower back right now. And so working on trying to get a sense of staying in this spine angle is so important. I mentioned earlier in one of my other segments about being able to separate your upper and lower body, but that's a key. It's one of the keys to being able to have the correct golf swing, is to be able to do that and having the correct sequence. So when we set up to the ball, there's usually a couple of reasons why a person will have a reverse spine angle. And one of those things is in the address position. When I set up to begin with, that I set up with my right hip a little bit too high. You should be able to see here that when I set up, if I get this rod right through the middle of my belt, that if I were to set up with my right hip higher than my left, that would be one of the things that would really promote a reverse spine angle. You actually would want to, when you set up to hit a ball, you actually want your right hip to be just ever so slightly lower than your left hip when you set up. So you could actually get into a mirror where you're inside and you're looking into a mirror, and if you stand in front of the mirror and you just see that the fact that as I set up here that my right hip is ever so slightly lower than my left, and then also if I put this along my shoulders, that my right shoulder, of course, because my right hand is lower on the club than the left, automatically creates a situation where the right side is a little lower. So we want that to be, but very important that you don't get your right hip too high, because if you do, then that's one of the main causes of that. There's actually another cause that I see that can easily make a person get into a reverse spine angle, and that is that on the backswing, the person does not have sufficient rotation, forearm rotation, as the club comes back. The club will tend to go more this way, and you can only go so far that way, and then you go into backwards bending, and once you're into that backward bending, then you're not certainly in the right position to be able to make the swing into the ball. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, it can be very destructive for your back. So the two keys that I would start out with, if you have any degree of reverse spine angle, number one would be to make sure that you get your right hip a little lower than your left at address here. And then as far as a backswing thought, making sure that you create some forearm rotation. And if you create forearm rotation in the backswing, that should clearly make it more difficult for you to do anything that would resemble a reverse spine angle. I'm going to demonstrate a couple of situations here where if we did have, and I see this unfortunately a lot of times in some of my students, is they're leaning left, if you will, right hip kind of high this way, and then they just bring the club up here, and then you get into this reverse spine angle. And usually what happens is it falls back the other way, coming down on the downswing. So again, if we can get ourselves into a position at address where right hip is slightly lower than the left at address, and get into a good position here, we should be able to get into a position so that we can make a nice golf swing and be able to get the upper body not leaning this way, but in a good posture and a good position at the top, which again gets you in a great position to be able to sequence your downswing correctly. So again, just remember, if you have any problem with reverse spine angle, take a look at that right hip position, make sure it's slightly lower than your left, and remember about some forearm rotation. You don't want to do that excessively, but if you go into anything that would resemble that, it makes it real easy to do that. So I hope that helps you with the reverse spine angle.